as we're fighting over training wheels because that's what the new Browns head coach probably is going to have as he rolls through. You know what? They should put him on a tricycle. You know, Hugh Jackson got the hero's welcome. They lined the staircase and the both doors were open as he walked into the hero's welcome. You know what? I think if they hire Grant Udinski or Nate Scheelhaus, they should have him roll in on a tricycle because that's what this is going to be. Neither one are ready to be a head coach, but we're going to teach them how to do the job. And if there's ever a franchise in the National Football League to teach a guy how to be a head coach and to be successful and to lose in epic fashion, it's the Cleveland Browns. So I can't wait. That's why I'm so enthusiastic about this coaching search. I can't get enough of it because what they're giving me gives me no hope. I have no hope that they're going to get it right. These are the same people that hired Rob Chudzinski. These are the same people that hired Mike Pettin. These are the same people that hired Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens. That's who's doing the hiring. And I'm just supposed to blindly believe, which, by the way, there's going to be some growing pains here. Like, they're not making the playoffs this year. Breaking news for you. Not happening. That's why I bet Nick Wilson a burger. Browns not make the playoffs this year. Nick loves the young offense, which I think is comprised of a total of 3 players right now.
Plus 2 first-round picks coming up. You continually to conveniently leave out that they have 2 first-round picks.
But I don't know who those first-round picks are. I don't know that Andrew Berry's getting those first-round picks correct. He had one good draft. He had one good draft. The next wide receiver that he drafts that turns out to be a consistent contributor will be the first. The next offensive lineman that he drafts that turns out to be a consistent, positive contributor and actually likes the sport of football will be the first.
So what are we going to do? We're just going to sit here and then whoever they hire, we're just going to say is the wrong thing. There's no reason to be excited. When the Rams hired McVay, nobody was excited. It was doomsday. They should have hired a dinosaur, prehistoric head coach that was 100 years old. Same thing in Green Bay when they hired LaFleur. They should have just brought Belichick to wear a cheese head on the sideline because he's old and he'll help us win Lombardis. And that's what we do in Green Bay, Wisconsin. No, because at some point you have to get younger and you have to innovate. Adapt or die is the way that the world works, the way that the sporting world certainly works. Hey, and the Browns do need to adapt. They tried the same thing for 6 years.
They
and
adapted
it was
in 2016
working.
when they hired Paul DePodesta. Okay? They adapted then. Please tell me the adaptation that they did, okay? In 2016, which is when they went heavy into analytics, which, by the way, I felt was a good idea and a good thing. Not so much hiring Paul DePodesta, but really beefing up that portion of the organization. Right. First thing John Harbaugh said.
Strategy.
Right. The first thing that John Harbaugh said to the NFL insiders after getting the Giants job about changes was, we need to beef up the analytics department here in New York, right? I'm not, but the problem is, it's the right thing to do, but here in Cleveland, it hasn't borne fruit. That's my frustration, okay? One of these guys might be the next Sean McVay. One of these guys might be the next Bill Belichick. I'm not disputing that. But the unknown when it comes to the Browns and how they do things, it understandably freaks me out because their resume with trying to find that unknown, okay, is the worst of the worst.
But the thing is, until you find that next Sean McVay, you have to keep taking your swings. Because guess what? One of those proven guys is not going to come here in its current state. Aren't we living through that in real
Mike
time?
McDaniel won't even do him a solid of coming here for an interview to help him out with the Rooney Rule, but he's going to do that for Buffalo, and I don't think he's getting that job.
Buffalo needs 2. He's going to be one of 2 there. So until you start to get serious, then you're never going to have somebody like a Harbaugh, somebody even like a McDaniel who only coached 4 years in the league with Miami. You're never going to get one of those guys. So I feel like you might as well try to continue to go to the Shanahan tree, continue to go to the McVay tree, and try to find your own iteration of these guys and bring them up like the rest of these organizations do. You see teams like Jacksonville, the blind squirrel finds nut in Liam Cohen. My blind squirrel needs to find his nut this year with this Browns coaching search. And I do like the 2 candidates that they're on to.
Well, the good news is the 2 candidates come from Cohen and McVay. Right. I mean, that's I guess that's the only thing we have going for us. Is that
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that's the only thing.
The 2 chief candidates are coming from, a guy who had a very successful debut season as a rookie NFL head coach, and then Sean McVay. And listen, to the Rams' credit, after they won that Super Bowl, they fell off. I think people forget. They fell off. I think they had a 3-win season in there, okay? They fell on some hard times, but now they have bounced back. They stuck with it. They saw it through. The Browns, who made the playoffs twice with Kevin Stefanski, decided it wasn't worth seeing it through with Kevin. That you could, and listen, I was saying, I don't know how you sell that to fans. I don't know how you run this back with what we've watched the last 2 years and you sell it to fans, especially when you're trying to sell PSLs in your new dome that you're trying to start building here this year. But, my worry is that they miscalculated and that whomever they do bring in, they ruin. Because the young up-and-comer, Pat Shurmur got a second chance with the Giants, okay? That was an abject failure. We found out he's a coordinator at best, okay? That's his ceiling. Rob Chudzinski hasn't sniffed another head coaching job, right? Mike Pettin hasn't sniffed another head coaching job. In fact, I believe he just retired.
He did just retire, yeah.
He just retired. He had enough of pro football. He just retired, right? Hugh Jackson, to your point, to be fair to you, Hugh Jackson was head coach with the Raiders for a little bit. Second time here in Cleveland, did not work out, okay? Was a complete disaster. Again, though, they didn't do much to help him, but also at the same time, Hugh didn't want to play ball with anybody. And he was trying to undermine everything. Then you had Freddie Kitchens, right? Greg Williams would have been the popular hire because he's the one that kind of helped really get that season turned around. But they went with Freddie Kitchens because of the Baker thing. And that was just a complete disaster. And again, Freddie has not, and rightfully so, sniffed another head coaching job. Kevin Stefanski, though, everybody wanted to talk to him except for Arizona. He interviewed with 7 different teams. He would have interviewed a second time with 4, but the Falcons,
didn't let that happen.
They didn't let that happen.
So that brings us to today,
hit the grill and kept them.
I want to talk about today with Udinski, and I get that you don't want to be excited because some of the young up-and-coming guys that they've tried and failed at, have not hit. But, with Udinski, there is reason to be excited. We're every day for the last how many days? Every day really since 1999.
Is he bringing Trevor Lawrence with him?
Are you going to let me talk?
I was asking a question if he's bringing Trevor Lawrence with him.
So what he's done is in Minnesota, he revived the career of Sam Darnold. And haven't we just spent the whole week talking about Malik Willis and Mac Jones and some of the realistic retread quarterbacks? Okay, well, this head coach that you're interested in meeting with today, he's proven that he could revive a career. He did so with Darnold, who's going to compete to play in a Super Bowl this weekend. Then you look at what he did in Trevor Lawrence this year, first year with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was kind of on thin ice in Jacksonville in a way. He got a new contract extension, but there were some real questions about if he was the true quarterback of the future for them. Right. It was his 5th year in the league. He threw a career-high touchdown number. this year in Jacksonville. So I think there's like reason to be excited about Grant Udinski, and you're just pretending, like you're just acting like because he's 30 years old and because he's never done this before, that it's like a hire that has absolutely no weight at all.
Well, here's another wrinkle for you. Neither one of these guys has called plays.
I don't really care about that.
I think that matters, though. The management of a game live.
Well, couldn't you bring in somebody to call plays?
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
that's why they're meeting with Todd Monken. Udinski's going to be the CEO of the organization, and Monken will call the plays. When Monken was the offensive coordinator in 2019, as much as we want to laugh about the 2019 Browns, that offense is all right. I take that offense over what I just saw last year.
They scored over 20. They were one of 8 offenses since this team has come back in 27 seasons, okay? So in 21 of 20, or I should say in 19 of 27 seasons, the Browns failed to score more than 20 points in a game in a league where 20 points is an average grade. That is a C. On a report card, 20 points is a C. That is an average, all right? 4 of the 8 seasons that saw you score 20 points or more were under Kevin Stefanski, okay? So, like, let's have a little perspective here. I know the last 2 years were awful where they averaged 15 and 16 and 14 or whatever it was points per game these last 2 years. Like, when, you know, you had a little something at quarterback and you had a little something at receiver and you had a little something at running back and tight end. Like, under Kevin, the Browns could score 20 points in a game. Again, 20 points is average.
So the Bills are getting their Rooney Rule situation set. We got a little breaking news from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. Bills plan to spend their Saturday in Los Angeles doing an in-person interview with Anthony Lynn, who was their interim head coach in 2016, the former LA Chargers head coach, currently the Commanders' run game coordinator. So they're also setting themselves up to make a hire next week, and the Browns have one known.
They're so hiring Brian Daboll. I'm convinced.
Because this comes down the day after they had an in-person formal meeting with Daboll.
Yeah, like I would be shocked at this point if they didn't. Just as much as I probably would have been shocked if the Ravens didn't hire, Minter yesterday, right? Or the Falcons, hiring Stefanski. Like, that was not a surprise.
So I think if you want to poke holes in the Browns process here, you can, because they can't even hire any coach right now.
No, they still have not fulfilled the Rooney Rule. And again, in defense of them, Andrew Berry does not want to do just performative interviews. He wants them to be legitimate. And I presented a candidate this morning that I think would work. I think he could work as a head coach, and it would satisfy the Rooney Rule, and that's David Shaw.
You want another like serious candidate that would?
And don't say Deion Sanders again, please.
JT Barrett has been like a fast riser because he spent a lot of time in the quarterback room with Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions and got his career on the straight and narrow, if we're talking about retread options. And then this year with Caleb Williams and the Bears and what they were able to do, he was Caleb's quarterback coach. And so I think he could get some serious, like, I don't know about head coach looks,
right.
But I think he could get some serious OC looks.
Here's the other thing, too, that when you're thinking about these young up-and-coming head coaches is the depth of their Rolodexes, okay?
Like, Udinski's is probably a little bit deeper than some white thing. He's been with multiple organizations despite only being 30 years old.
Here's why keeping Jim Schwartz is important. You don't have to restaff one side of the ball, okay? Or you don't have to completely
because most of those dudes will stay for Jim.
Right. And that is another thing to kind of keep in mind, is because when you do these in-person interviews, and I've talked about this a lot, you have to have a Rolodex with you. You have to, hey, this is who my offensive coordinator be. This is who the quarterback's coach should be. This is who I think should be the offensive line coach, right? Because you're seeing these coaches, when they get hired, they waste no time filling their coordinator slots. Right. Because that was already part of the interview process, right? And they, again, because the Rooney Rule does apply to coordinators as well, then they also go through that of getting those interviews out of the way so then they can hire the folks that they originally wanted to hire to begin with. The Rooney Rule, the spirit of it is great, but the way the NFL continues to execute it is not. And I will give the Browns credit. They're trying to do it the right way. Unfortunately, the right way is slowing up their ability to hire who they really want to hire, who I think is going to be Grant Udinski. I think it's going to be Nate Scheelhaus.